Alright guys, so right now I'm under the M45 because I kept hearing like this weird screeching sound that would come from the bottom of the car, and I knew it was coming from like the right side, but I wasn't really sure exactly like where it was really coming from. It would only do it like off of a stop. It would kind of do the noise, but once I got up to higher speeds, it would completely go away. I was looking at the wheels. I lifted both of the rear ones up just to see what I can find. And right now I'm like rotating it, but let me show you guys what I actually found. So if you move towards the back a little bit, right here we have the diff bushings right there, those two, and there's another one at the top over here. Now I can already tell that the diff bushing that's up there is already bad because there's some leakage right here. Whenever you see some drips coming from your diff right here on the front cover, that's how you know it's trash. RAS, which is the rear active steering right here in the back, that kind of covers it. Like on the 370Z and G37, they don't really have the rear active steering, so you won't have this in the way, but you would easily be able to touch it by looking up there. So now the reason I'm looking at the diff is because when I was putting the car and driving reverse, I noticed that the diff would move. Also, when it was at a stop, I put it in park, I would kind of push the car forward and back, and I would see the differential move as well. Now I pushed this control arm right here and watch that bushing right there. See that? This thing is moving a lot. Let me get back a little bit. See, this side is pretty good, like no movement at all. Like right now I'm pushing it right here, doesn't really have movement, but this side has a whole lot of movement. You can even hear it. I'm gonna go ahead and try to tighten it down, see if that fixes it. If not, I'll most likely have to replace the diff bushing. Alright, so I went ahead and removed the sway bar on the back. It just has these 14 mils right there holding it in. On the side, I don't know if it's get enough space to be able to remove the plate that goes right here, which is a 17 mil. And right there you guys can see that this is completely shot, which is why it's moving so much. In order to replace these, it is pretty difficult. You need to like press in a new bushing, and then of course we have to order them. I think I have a gift card from Z1 Motorsports that I can use to purchase these right here, but I'm not sure which ones will exactly fit. I mean, I don't think it's going to be too much of a difference between like a G35 or like a G37, somewhere around there. But I'm trying to take it off from the bottom, but it's kind of stuck. Like the only way it will come out is from the top. You can see that that thing is just completely gone. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to remove this like splash shield right here on the back. There's a few 10 mils and there's little plastic clips right here that come off. There's another one over there, another 10 mil. I think this will give me like a little bit more space to be able to work under the car. So I'm just going to take this off for now. And then we got to remove the RAS, which is a rear active steering. It's like right there, and it has a few bolts that we need to take off. I think it's a total of like 4 and a bunch of connections that go to it. Alright, so I removed this entire section right here, and you can see that it exposed like, I believe this is like the evap canister and all that stuff. I might be wrong, but it looks like that's what it is. And then you have a few more nuts that you had to remove. There was another one on here on the side, and there was another one on the side over there. And then I'm removing the exhaust. There's 14 mil bolts on the side, and then there's another one right here, but this one's kind of weird. Like it has this ground connected like right here on the top that goes to the RAS, the rear active steering. And I just took the top bolt off and this came off, and then I took this one under it off as well, but it looks like it's just there to hold it into place. I'm not sure why they didn't mount it to like anything else, but I'm actually going to take this off. I'm going to remove the mufflers, and I'm going to turn the car on to see how it sounds, because I don't have any cast to the header, so I wonder how it will sound with the mufflers removed as well. There's a hanger up here at the top that you got to remove. This is that one right there. And then you have another one at the back, which is this one right here that you got to remove. Alright, so remove the exhaust, and over you can see there's just like one flange where it mounts up to. I'm going to go ahead and begin removing the sensors right here. And they have 12 mils and just comes right off. This one already loosened it. It's almost out. Well, actually it is out. and then I just gotta pull it out. It's pretty easy to remove these. It's not like stuck or anything. Well, at least I thought. Well, it's harder with one hand. There you go. So that one out of the way, and I think there might be, yeah, there is. There's a tube attached to it. You guys can kind of see it right there. Right up there, there's that tube that goes connected to the top. So once you like put it down a little bit, you have to disconnect that. Then you got to remove these. They're 17 mils. I have to get a swivel because you can see right there that was kind of hitting it like at an angle, and you don't want it to strip it. So I'm gonna get my swivel, start removing these, and then you also got to disconnect it from over here as well because it's mounted right there. And then these are here. I believe they're also 17 mils. So you gotta remove those. Then they should come off. And this car, well, at least this differential, is really easy to remove because it just goes mounted right here to the sides. As where I think newer Q50s, they actually fall inside of the diff. So this is a lot easier to remove compared to other vehicles. So we got lucky with that. But with this car, we have the RAS, which is the rear active steering. So we have to remove these right here. And I actually want to do those first. That way I can remove the buckets. And then I can go ahead and I can remove it from right here. That way I can alleviate the support that it has on the RAS. So that's what I'm doing right now. So this is pretty straightforward so far. Just take this off. 17 mil releases this. It's loose. Taking this one off right now. And then it'll slide right out. Like that, and then just push this out. Just take it out. Yeah, this is out. Now I just gotta loosen these over here, which might also be 17s, but we'll see right now. Yeah, it is 17 mil, so break those loose, and I think the entire RAS should come off, but there's a few sensors that we gotta disconnect. Like there's one mounted right there to the subframe, and then there's this big sensor right here that I think we can take off. So we'll see if we have to remove that. That way we can just leave the wiring harness attached to the car itself. Alright, and then for this right here, there's actually two Allen keys that you gotta remove right there. And this will slip right out. And it has like this stuff in there. I'm not sure what that's for, but I'm gonna push it to the side. It looks like there's just like this connection right here and another one on top of it, and I think that should completely release it. So I'm gonna drop it down a little bit, see if I can get that one up there removed, because that's the only one really holding it in. Alright, so I loosened most of the 17 mils right here. I was able to get all of those over there by hand, and I used a open-ended wrench like that. That one's a 14 mil. I was able to get all of those. I loosened it up, and then I have an Allen key on the other side. You had to remove that shield. I just removed the front portion. I just moved it down. I was able to get enough space in there, so that way when we are ready to pull everything, that's already loose. And I'm just loosening these right here. I'm still leaving them on for right now. That way it has enough leverage to be able to remove the other ones, and I don't like end up rotating the entire drive shaft and everything. And I still got to loosen the other ones over there, but for the most part they're pretty loose. The best way of doing this is honestly using a breaker bar. So I have like this right here, my ratchet, and then I'll put this bar on the end right there to give me more leverage in order to be able to break it, because I'm finding it really hard to get enough space to put in like a larger ratchet. This is like the only size that was really fitting on there good. The sway bar was getting in the way, so I'd rather just move the sway bar. So I'm just gonna loosen the bolts right here. You gotta remove the plastic right here, and then now you should be able to have enough leverage to get both of these out. Let's go ahead and do that now. Alright guys, so for the most part the diff is already ready to come out. I just gotta remove that line right there. That's the only thing really attached to the diff, but I did have to go ahead and go to the back and loosen the middle portion of the drive shaft right there. I had to remove that because I wasn't able to actually remove this front portion right here to the drive shaft. As you can see, I was trying to take it out and I scratched the outside part right there, so it was better to actually go ahead and remove that piece right there to leave it really loose. That way I have more leverage to be able to move it around. That way it's not attached to the differential still, because it was still like on there, and I did want to lower it because I gotta push it back still in order to get the diff to come out of this bolt right here to mount it up properly. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and drop it right now. Just gonna remove that hose and then we should be good. Alright guys, so we finally got it out, and this is the side that was completely like broken. And here you can see it came out, so this one was shot. So now we just gotta tip it over, remove the other ones, but I want to drain it first. So I actually need to go to the store and pick that stuff up. That way we can go ahead and drain out the fluid and then put some new one in there. I thought I had a pump, but I don't know where it's at. I'll have to look for it. But if I have it, we can just pump it in there. I think it takes like a quart and something, but I'll have to double check. It doesn't take too much for a diff. Make sure you guys wear glasses because there's a bunch of dirt that's just gonna come off when you're removing this. Now, the hardest part, honestly, is really gonna be this right here. Removing this part, because you have to remove the outer ring, so you gotta remove the middle one, and then you also gotta remove the steel ring that is technically pressed in to the frame. And I think we're gonna have to tackle it from this side over here. We're gonna have to cut this out, take it out, and then put the new one in that I got from Z1 Motorsports. So this should technically feel better as well, but we'll see once we actually install everything. But I know it's gonna take me like a long time to be able to do this. But one thing for sure that I want to do is just move all this stuff out of the way, because I don't want to damage anything while I'm cutting right here, because I'm going to be using a Sawzall. I was going to purchase the actual kit, but from Z1 Motorsports, I think it's like $100 and something, and I didn't want to really spend that. So now this is actually supposed to be the hard part, is removing this piece right here. So I'll go ahead and like drill this out in the middle, and then we'll go from there. Alright guys, so right now I remove the drain plug from the bottom, and everything's coming out. It looks really dirty. Here's the plug right here. It has a bunch of buildup on it. We need to clean it up. But I'm gonna go ahead and tilt that right now. I did pick up some fluid. I actually picked up royal purple fluid, so we're gonna go ahead and put that in the diff once we're ready to go ahead and install it. But we're just gonna let it drain out for right now. It only needs about 1.7 quarts of oil. And then right now I'm removing the rear bushings. These are actually pretty simple to remove. Just turn it over, and then you're gonna hit it with the socket. You can actually use like I think it's a 34 that they want you to use, but I have this 32 that I'm using right now, and it's working pretty good. And I already took one off. You just gotta hit it really hard. I'll try to record it. Alright, there you go. There's both of them removed. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the bushings and then throw them on there. Alright, so here are the ones that go in the back. Now, mine are really easy to put in because I actually left them in the freezer for a few hours. Because what happens is when you put it in the freezer, it kind of compresses the rubber, makes it a little bit smaller. That way it's easier to slide in. So right now, honestly, I was able to just push everything in by hand. So this one goes like that, and see how easy it is to push it in. And then we have this one that's gonna go on the bottom side, and you know this is the bottom side because it has like this right here, this indent, and you need that spacer to go on there. And it's actually really simple to be able to do it. You can use your hammer if you need to, but you don't really have to. And we're gonna tilt it over right now and make sure that everything's on there really good. But there, perfect fitment for the M45 diff. No issues with this. I just kind of test out the other one to see if it's gonna fit, and it is, but I have to cut off that ring like I mentioned. So this should be ready to go. Now we have new bushings, but now the hard part is actually taking the one that's on the subframe itself. Alright, so right now we're filling the diff. I'm using royal purple, which is this one here, 75 W90. And how I'm filling it is I just have it like, you know, sitting like this, and then I'm gonna tilt it over like that,
and I've been adding the fluid in there, you know, on the side, that way it goes in there. I'm just checking it, you know, every once in a while to make sure it's full. Once it's full, it'll start dripping from here, but it has to be level, so it has to be like this. You're gonna leave it at that, see if it starts dripping out. If it does, that means it's full. If it's not, like right now nothing's coming out, then we're gonna go ahead and tip it back over, add a little bit more. I already added 1 full quart, which is this one right here. Put it in there, so now I'm just gonna continue to add more of this fluid in there until it starts leaking out. And then I only use one of the caps, so like I only cut one, and I reused this one right there, that way I can close this one back up when I'm done using it. So yeah, just continue to put some in there, squeeze it, it'll come out, and then tip it back over. Alright, there you go, it's dripping out now, so we're gonna stop right there. We pretty much use like almost the entire thing, so yeah, it's technically like gone, there's like nothing in there, so I'm just letting it drip out a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and close it back up.
So I began removing the outer housing right here for the diff bushing, and you can kind of see where I'm at right now. I used a chisel, and then I just went through it with one line, and I made a few more. I made like 2 more right here and another one over here, just to weaken it as much as possible. And then what I'm doing right now is I'm grabbing a hammer. This has been taking me like, I'll say over an hour already, but you want to go on the edge right here, like if you were using a chisel. I mean, I have this flathead right here, but it would help a lot if I had a chisel because it's a little bit better. But you're gonna put it like right on the edge, and then you're gonna hammer it, and it's gonna pull up on these edges right here. Now the problem with the M45 is that there's not a lot of space on this side to be able to use like the chisel. You can see this gets in the way, and I kind of got like a little bit right there with the hammer and the flathead. I was hitting it and I was going up a little bit. It's taking a while, but I'll keep you guys updated. You just gotta go all the way through, that way it can weaken it, and then we can just pop it out. So just getting all the way to the other side is the problem right now. Alright guys, so we finally broke it. Let me show you really quick what I did. So I have my chisel right here, and I used my sawzall. I made a line with the sawzall like on this area right here, and then I chiseled my way all the way through. I had to keep bending it up, that way the metal can technically get out of the way of the chisel to a point where it finally slid all the way through like that. As you guys can see, it's on the other end, and it broke the housing. So now I can go ahead and tap it out. Right there you can see that I already moved a little bit, but you're gonna have to use a hammer to hit it because it is kind of hard on there still. But what you're technically doing is just breaking the stiffness of the seal, no, not the seal, the housing. That way you can just tap it out, because right now these are technically pressed in, so it's really hard to remove these. You have to technically break it in order to be able to remove it. So then I keep tapping it out, and then we should be good. Alright, so right now I'm kind of struggling with this part. So I put the diff bushing in already, no problems. Just hammered it in. You gotta do it really hard. But this side, when you're trying to push it in, it's pretty difficult, I'm not gonna lie. So I pushed it in there, then I grabbed my hammer, and then I just pushed it in like that. So like right now you can kind of see I'm still doing it, but I'm pushing it in. That way it keeps like holding tension and like continues to push it in, because it's pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie. Like if I try to push it in with my hand, there's like no way, it's so hard on there. So you gotta get like some type of clamp and really push it in there. But it's holding up for right now. Maybe I could put the diff in there now, and then I can just use the bolt to reel it in. But I want to try to push it in as much as possible so I don't have any issues. Alright guys, so everything's been installed with the exception of the exhaust. I'll put that on right now. I still need to put this cover on as well, but everything is now connected. Right there you can see the rear bushings, and then over here you can kind of see the blue from the front diff right there, or the rear one actually. And so far it seems like everything's pretty good. I'm trying to move the wheel right now, and there's like no movement at all. So you can already tell that this made a huge difference already, because before I could move the wheel a little bit and you can see some movement from the diff. Alright guys, so here's the final result of how that housing looks and how we technically broke it. So it's kind of like this, and that housing,
And with the Sawzall, I just made a straight line going all the way down. And then I also made like a few cuts in order for it to bend. So technically I made like one cut right in the middle that was pretty deep. And then I made 2 cuts on the sides. That way it can make it a little bit weaker for me to bend it up. And then I would just hammer it on the edges to lift it. Same thing on the back. I lifted it a little bit right there. That way the cut right in the middle can be really weak. That way I can just bend it up. I did pick up some chisels, which made it a lot easier to hammer them in and bend the material up. I did break a few chisels, but they did help out a lot. The hammer and also the flathead actually did a lot of the work. The chisel just helped finish it off. But yeah, hopefully that gives you guys an idea of how to do it. And then for the middle portion, I didn't really record that, but I just used a drill like this one with this bit and just went around the entire thing to remove all the rubber. And that's how I got it out. And then these are like the chisels that I have. So I use like these. I use the smaller ones. Alright guys, so that's going to conclude the video. Hopefully this helps you guys out if you're interested in doing this job. I'm not gonna lie, it is very, very time consuming. So it's gonna take you a long time. I was recording and also doing like the video and trying to remove everything, and it took me about, I would say 7 hours. I did take like a little bit of a break between the time. So yeah, it was about 7 to 6 hours to be able to take everything off and go ahead and put it back on. The kit that I installed is actually from Z1 Motorsports. It doesn't specifically say that it is for an M35 or M45, but it fit exactly perfect on the car. I had no issues at all whatsoever. The diff pushing at the top, the one to the actual subframe was the exact size. You just gotta hammer it in really hard. Mine was frozen as well on that portion, so it did make a difference. If it's not frozen, it might be like a little bit harder for you, but you will want to go ahead and actually add some like lubricant on there. That way it can slide in. And then the other portion, I just pressed it in using a hammer or the end of the hammer. And the other side, as you guys saw, was really easy to place it in. No issues with that at all. I have been driving it for a few days now, and it does actually help out a lot. I'll make another video on it if you guys are interested, but the response is there now. Like before, I would have kind of like a lag and also a thump when I would like kind of push on the car, but now it doesn't have any noise at all, and the power is there like as soon as I hit the pedal. So it does actually make a difference. I know this is going to be a great alternative for you guys that want to go ahead and do this, because I think the dealership charges you for a new subframe in order to replace that whole thing, and I'm pretty positive it's like well over $2,000 to be able to do that with the dealer. But if you do this yourself, I honestly spent for the fluid, it was about like $50. Got the chisels about 10 bucks. I actually got my Sawzall used, so if you guys want to pick that up, that might be a little bit expensive, but that helps out a lot. You could also just purchase the tool to remove the diff bushing itself from Z1 Motorsports. I think it's like 110 or 120, somewhere around there. Or you can buy the Sawzall. If you already have one, then you can just use that. And then I had to go ahead and use a flathead and a few other things, a drill bit as well. I already had the drill, so I didn't have a problem there. So for the most part, you can say I spent like, I think it was $70 for the kit, because I had a gift card. I think it comes out to like 120 with shipping. And then I got the fluid, so I spent, you can say, about 120 to do this job, which is a whole lot better than spending $2,000 for your dealer to go ahead and replace your whole subframe for you, because they won't actually replace the bushing itself. Unless you take it to a shop to do it for you, maybe a little bit cheaper there as well. But overall, I'm satisfied with the outcome of how everything came out. I had like no issues at all. It was all perfect. I'm going to make a few more videos on the M45 when it comes to the rear active steering. When I was installing it back together, there's something that I noticed that I could not find any information on the forums on how to properly attach the rear active steering position sensor, or whatever you want to call it. There's a specific way you got to do it, and I had no idea. Turn on all my lights when I turn on the car, and I could not figure it out until like the next day. I was just messing with it, and I was able to figure out the issue that was going on with the rear active steering after like removing everything. So I'll make a video on that as well if you guys are interested in watching that. And also, I just removed the mufflers from the M45, and it sounds a lot better than what it sounded like before. I'll make a video on that as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.